So some couples during sexual intercourse use saliva in order to make penetration of the penis into the vagina easier and sometimes to just spice things up. Well, I have news for you. Saliva, as well as so many other lubricants, actually reduce the motility of the sperm. That is, it slows the movement of the sperm and can lead to infertility. Some of you don't know that your sexual habits may be the sole reason why you are still not getting pregnant. In today's video, I will be talking about all of these sexual habits and what you can do about them in order to get pregnant. On this channel, that's literally all we talk about, how to get pregnant. So if you're new here, I am Dr. Amarachi Ijoma. I am a fertility physician, and if you're interested in anything fertility, keep watching. By now, we all know that the natural way of getting pregnant is through sexual intercourse. So it has to be between a penis and a vagina. So the idea is the penis deposits sperm in the vagina and the sperm goes all the way into the uterus and into the fallopian tube to fertilize the egg. And when fertilization occurs, a zygote is formed, and it is this zygote that will travel through the fallopian tube and into the uterine cavity to implant there and form a baby. So I'm just going to jump right into the sexual habits that are currently preventing you from getting pregnant. So the first one is you're having sexual intercourse without even knowing your fertile window. So every woman has a fertile window every month, and this is about 9 days in a month. So if you have sexual intercourse anywhere outside of these 9 days, then the chances of you getting pregnant is very, very minimal, because the days outside of these 9 days are actually your safe days. So safe days just simply means that the days that when you have sex without protection, the chances of getting pregnant is very slim. So if you belong to this group of people that are actively trying to get pregnant, but you don't know how to calculate your fertile period, or you're calculating it improperly, or you're just going with vibes and chill, which is not bad by the way, but the idea is you have been trying and trying, but you have not been successful in getting pregnant. I'm going to be teaching you and showing you how to calculate your fertile period. So first, you need to know what your cycle length is. Cycle length is simply the number of days in between the first day you see your period to the last day before you see your next period. And the normal cycle length is between 21 days and 35 days. So using this calendar, I'll be showing you how to calculate your cycle length. So imagine that the first day you see your period blood is on the 3rd of this month. And the next time you're seeing your period is actually on the 30th of this same month. Then what is your cycle length? Your cycle length is simply the number of days from the first day you see your period to the last day before you see your next period. Remember that this is your next period on the 30th. So your cycle length is from day 1 of your period, the first day you see your period, to the last day before you see your next period. So let's calculate it together. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So this particular lady has a 27-day cycle length. So this is how to calculate your cycle length. And if you notice, even with a 27-day cycle length, a woman can see her period twice in a month. So it depends on when you start to see your period in that particular month and your cycle length. So remember I said that the normal cycle length is 21 days to 35 days. So some people actually have a shorter cycle length and a longer cycle length, but the average cycle length is actually 28 days. But this does not mean that if you have a cycle length less than 28 days, it's irregular. As long as it falls within 21 and 35 days, that's a regular cycle length. So another thing I want to point out is, so if this month you have a 23-day cycle length, and the next month you have a 23-day cycle length, and the following month you have a 27-day cycle length or a 32-day cycle length, that is still a regular cycle length. It's just that the cycle length is varying month to month, and this can be due to a myriad of reasons. But since we're not talking about reasons for varying cycle length in today's video, we are focusing on sexual habits that may prevent you from getting pregnant. Let's go back. So now you know your cycle length. How does this help you know your fertile window? I'm going to be explaining that. So once you've confirmed your cycle length, all you need to do is subtract 14 days from it so that you can know when you are most likely to ovulate. So since this woman's cycle length is 27 days, you write 27 days, then you subtract 14 from it, and this gives you 13. So many of you are familiar with this my video where I spoke about how to calculate your safe periods and your fertile window. And the question I got the most was, why are you subtracting 14 days? What's so special about 14 days? Now, this is the reason we are subtracting 14. Your menstrual cycle happens in phases. We have the menstrual phase, which starts from the very first day you see your period, because your body didn't get pregnant, so your uterine lining will shed and come out as period blood. Then we have the follicular phase. In this phase, it's when the follicles, that's the sacs of fluid in your ovaries, are beginning to grow due to communication from your brain to your ovaries. So there's a hormone being sent from your brain to tell your ovaries, to tell the follicles on your ovaries to grow. And because there's egg suspended in most of those follicles, the most mature follicle, the follicle that grows the most, is now the one that releases the mature egg. So when the mature egg is being released, that's when we move to the stage of your menstrual cycle called ovulation. Now, in this phase, the egg is being released. So the idea is that a sperm should come and fertilize it. But if a sperm does not come to fertilize it, the egg will get reabsorbed in the uterus within 12 to 24 hours from when it was released. Now, the number of days from when that egg was released from your ovary, that is the number of days from the day of ovulation till you see your next period, is usually what we call the luteal phase. So here's the thing. Even though so many literature show that the luteal phase is consistently 14 days, it really isn't. Luteal phase actually ranges, and it ranges from 11 days to 17 days. And this is the reason, even though we have an idea when we are to ovulate, we might not ovulate on that particular day. That's why we usually give a grace period of plus or minus 2. So now that I've brought you guys up to speed with the reason we subtract 14 days, then you can understand that this woman with a 27-day cycle length most likely ovulates on day 13. So even though we've arrived at day 13, we say plus or minus 2. That is, we assume that this woman with a 27-day cycle length may either ovulate day 13 plus 2, which is day 13, day 14, day 15, or minus 2, day 11, day 12, day 13. So I'm going to write that out so you guys don't get confused. So these are the 5 days that she is most likely to ovulate. So another interesting thing about fertility is that sperm is said to be able to survive in the female reproductive system for about 3 to 5 days. So if this woman can ovulate on day 11, so why not count 5 days backwards? so that we can accommodate all the possible days that she can actually get pregnant. But before we do that, I need to show you guys on the calendar when this woman actually ovulated. So remember we said she most likely ovulated day 13. So we will start counting from day 1 of her period. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So on the 15th of this month is when she most likely ovulated. So I used pink on purpose to represent ovulation. So now back to where we were. We're going to count 5 days from day 11. So which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now it means that her fertile period started from day 7 of her menstrual cycle to day 15 of her menstrual cycle. So I'm going to lock up the whole fertile period with purple magnets. This is day 15 of her menstrual cycle, which is 17th of this month. So now remember I said that a woman's fertile window is about 9 days every month. Now let's count it together just to confirm it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now this is the period when you have sex actively, you are most likely to get pregnant, all things being equal. So just a little recap. This was day 1, that is the first day that she saw her period blood. And this was day 1 of her next period. Then counting days between the first day she saw her period to the last day before she saw her next period is her cycle length, which was 27 days. Now, this was the most likely day she ovulated because this is 14 days before her next period. Then because we like to give grace of plus or minus 2, the earliest time she could ovulate was day 11 of this month. And then because the sperm can survive in the female reproductive tract for 3 to 5 days, we calculated 5 days from the earliest possible time she can ovulate, and we got to this point. Now, between day 7 of her cycle and day 15 of her cycle is her fertile window, which is 9 days in a month. So moving on to the next sexual habit, which is not having enough sex. Yes, I said it. Now, this can mean different things to different people, but for the purpose of fertility, for the purpose of getting pregnant, not having enough sex simply means not having enough sex during your fertile window. So how do you have enough sex during your fertile window? Does it mean that this woman now with a 27-day cycle length is supposed to have sex every day of these 9 days? Now, I'm not about to tell you to change the whole dynamics of sexual intercourse in your relationship. But what I will tell you is the science behind it. So several studies have shown that men produce the best sperm quality after 2 to 3 days of abstinence. And by abstinence, I don't only mean abstaining from sexual intercourse, but abstaining from any form of activity that causes you to ejaculate, which includes masturbation. So the idea is abstaining from ejaculation. So if these studies are saying the best sperm quality are being produced 2 to 3 days from abstinence, then should you have sex every single day of these 9 days? So I'll tell you what, if your relationship dynamic, like the sexual habits in your relationship, requires you guys having sex every day of the month, then go ahead. Don't put strain on your relationship, because by the time you start calculating every 2 minutes, every 2 seconds, you're calculating, oh, this is when we're supposed to have sex. It takes away the fun from actually having sexual intercourse. And at some point, you might actually lose interest in having sexual intercourse with your partner. And then that brings us back to square one, because if you're not having sexual intercourse with your partner, then how can pregnancy occur? I know that I mentioned that when you abstain for 2 to 3 days, sperm quality is better. But it doesn't mean that sperm quality is bad if you don't abstain for 2 to 3 days. So this is mostly for people that don't even have sex at all, or don't have sex frequently enough. So if you don't have sex frequently enough and you're actively trying to get pregnant, then you will benefit from knowing your fertile window. So even if the only time in these 9 days you had sex on this day, day 9 of her menstrual cycle, remember that sperm can live in the female reproductive tract for 3 to 5 days. So now, if this was the only time in day 9, that she actually had sexual intercourse. Then this is day 1 of sexual intercourse. 2, 3, 4, 5. So if she ovulates on this day, there's still a chance of her getting pregnant. But like I said, what if the sperm decides to only survive for 3 days? Then that's 1, 2, 3. And remember that she might even be ovulating on this day, because -2, remember, day of ovulation -2, 1, 2. So, but the reason we want you to have sex more than once in these 9 days is because imagine this is the day she ovulates and the sperm only lasts for 3 days. Then this is where the sperm dies. It doesn't get to this day that she has ovulated, and then the sperm will not be able to get to the egg and fertilization will not occur. So having sexual intercourse every other day for these 9 days, that is, maybe you have sexual intercourse today, you don't have today, you have today, you don't have today, is ideal. But the world is not ideal. People go to work, people have timing, and besides, like I said, you want to enjoy sexual intercourse. So within these 9 days that you are most fertile, you want to have sexual intercourse at least 4 times. But because, as we know, the world is not ideal, people go to work, people have commitments, people have so many things that you're doing. I just want you to have it at the back of your mind that these 9 days are your most fertile days, and that sperm quality is most optimal within 2 to 3 days of abstinence. So for you to actually hit your chest and say, we were actively trying to get pregnant, it means that you actually had in mind your most fertile days and you were having sexual intercourse at least 3 to 4 times in the 9 days. Don't forget that after the egg is released, it can actually survive in the fallopian tube for up to 12 to 24 hours. So whatever day you ovulate, even if it is on this day, right, that egg is still there till about the next day. So if you have sexual intercourse here on the day of your ovulation and the sperm cell is being so sluggish, taking its time to actually get to the egg, you actually have a window of 12 to 24 hours for the sperm to get to the egg and for fertilization to occur. So the last sexual habit that I'll be talking about today is using lubricants that are not fertility friendly. So some couples actually need lubricant during sexual intercourse, and the most popular reason for lubricant is to make passage of the penis into the vagina easier. But what some of you may not know is that that lubricant you're using may be the single reason you are not getting pregnant, because some lubricants actually kill the sperm. So before the sperm even has a chance to get into the cervix, to get into the uterus, it's already dead because the lubricants you use have already caused the sperm to die. So any lubricant that contains what we call parabens does not even allow for the survival of the sperm at all. So as you're watching this video, go and grab that lubricant in your cupboard or on your table and check for the contents. If it contains parabens and you are actively trying to conceive, just grab that lubricant and discard it. Instead, go for lubricants that are hydroxyethyl cellulose based. Those ones are more fertility friendly. And there are several studies to back this up. So some couples during sexual intercourse use saliva to make the penetration of the penis into the vagina easier, and sometimes to just spice things up. Well, I have news for you. Saliva, as well as so many other lubricants, actually reduce the motility of the sperm. That is, it slows the movement of the sperm and can lead to infertility. So if you're actively trying to conceive, avoid lubricants that contain parabens and avoid lubricants such as saliva. And focus on lubricants that are hydroxyl ethyl cellulose based. If you want more sex tips on how to conceive, I have about 3 videos on my page and I'll be listing them out for you to go check them out, so that while enhancing your sexual life, you can also be optimizing your chances of getting pregnant. If you learned 1 or 2 things from today's video, share with somebody, like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in my next video.